Married Redditors, what is the creepiest thing your spouse has done? My wife was sleeping in the passenger seat on a late-night drive home from visiting her family. Our very young kids are in the back seats out cold too. She suddenly snaps up and grabs the wheel screaming something about how I, the totally awake and driving just fine driver, am about to drive us off a cliff. She was full strength trying to turn the wheel to the right, which would have been bad. I started yelling, "No, no, no." Quickly realizing that wasn't stopping her, I had to full-on NBA rebound the wheel with my elbows way out, and shove her very hard back into her seat. I managed to get a hold of her upper arm and used it to shove her into the door when she apparently still hadn't realized the reality of the situation and made another grab for the wheel. There was a lot of cursing and screaming. It was not pretty. Once she figured out what she had done, she lost it and started crying worse than I've ever seen. The rest of the drive home was pretty rough. Story 2. Back when my husband and I were dating, we lived in an apartment that had a hospice patient in the apartment below us who eventually passed. One night my husband fell asleep with the TV on. I woke to turn it off and went back to bed. He suddenly sat up in bed and stared at the doorway to our room for a few minutes. Eyes wide open. I'm freaking out at this point thinking he's fucking with me. I'm trying to get him to respond, saying it's not funny anymore. He just suddenly says, "You're not welcome here." Stares for about 5 more minutes and then just lays down and goes back to sleep with his back to me. Needless to say, no matter what I did, that man would not wake up. The next morning he had no memory of it and it never happened again. Still makes my gut churn when I think back on it. Story 3. My ex-husband had returned from a deployment and it was a pretty rough one. He was there for Fallujah and yeah, just tough on him. He was having a hard time sleeping and was prescribed a couple of doses of Ambien to get back on the US clock. I was sleeping but woke up when I heard a metal sink clink and saw that he was sitting on the edge of the bed. I asked if he was okay and he turned his head to me slowly and said something incoherent, then put his finger to his lip in a shush and slowly turned his head back to face the door. I got up and he was sitting there on the edge of the bed, buck-ass naked except for his socks and boots, laced up, holding his locked and loaded AK-47, that was the sound I heard. He'd somehow gotten up, found his gun safe keys, went to the basement, pulled out his AK, pulled his ammo out of the separate ammo box, loaded a magazine, put on his boots, and come back to bed. I was instantly as awake as a human can be, like this could go real bad real fast. I told him it was my turn for guard duty and to get some sleep. He just kind of grunted and fell sideways into bed, rolled over, and started snoring. I earned my ninja badge that night getting the gun away from him. I didn't sleep a wink because I couldn't find the gun safe keys, so I just kept vigil in bed and read a book, soothing him when he started stirring. He remembered none of it. I locked his gun safe keys away from him for a very long time after that night and he didn't take Ambien again. That stuff really messes with people.